Mike, check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. And even though I didn't set out to do any real collecting in the month of September, like I wasn't, planning on adding a bunch of games. I wasn't actively seeking games out online or anything. It's still been a solid beginning of the month, or it's been a solid month so far. And I've been able to find some really cool things without even trying. Everything that you see here, I went over yesterday, so I'm not going to go over all of these games again. But I will say that the standout titles that I've been able to acquire so far have definitely been the Dynasty Warriors, Raiden 5, 99 Nights, um, and the Expendables, and for sure Knights of the Round, and then this import gem Rapid Reload. So I kind of just wanted to talk about like how I collect when I'm in a selling mode. A lot of times it's easy to pick up um, games that are just fluff or shovelware, and I've done a lot of videos on what I think is fluff versus what I think is shovelware versus what I think is just like trash. And I do believe that when it comes to like the generation 7, right? So like the PlayStation 3 and the 360, I feel like there are a lot of rather games that um some might consider like shovelware or fluff because of how cheap they are. But I think that this generation in particular, the seventh generation, has a lot of games that are quality games. It just so happens that because of where these games fall in the timeline of gaming history, meaning because of where they fall in terms of their gaming generation, they still happen to be in that sweet spot where you can still get a lot of very, high quality games for a very cheap price. And I don't think that that makes, the cheap games necessarily shovelware, right? I still think that, or filler for that matter. For some people, some of these games might be, quality titles. Quality titles rather. They might be staples in their collection, and everybody defines shovelware and filler and stuff like that. Everybody has their own definitions of that. But I still think that this generation, the 360 and PS3 generation, is a generation where you can add a lot of really great games into your collection and not have to break the bank. I showed these two games, Argonauts as well as Bladestorm, two really cool PlayStation 3 games that I don't really know a lot about. And I don't really see these games often out in the wild, right? But I know that whenever I see Koei, I know that they make a lot of really cool games. They make the types of games that I like, those samurai-based hack and slash games. And if you don't like those, then I guess this is not for you. But I know that when it comes to these types of games, Koei does a really good job with those. And so, they have a lot of really great games that you can check out. And look, 750, 650, these are games that you can really use to build a healthy and quality collection without having to break the bank. And the other good thing about this generation is a lot of this generation is being remixed and remastered and remade on consoles like the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5. You have companies like Limited Run that are now re-releasing games from this generation, and this generation isn't even that old, right? Well, I guess now you could say that this generation is old because I mean, how many Xbox consoles have we had since the 360? We've had the Xbox One and the Xbox Series, so I guess the 360 is like 3 generations back. Um, when it comes to the PlayStation 3, you could say the same thing because now we're up to the PlayStation 5. So, I think we have to, like me personally, I have to change my paradigm and stop thinking about these like the PlayStation 3 as a generation behind. I have to like remember, oh yeah, that's right, the PlayStation 5 is out and this is now 2 generations behind. So we have companies that are remastering these games and bringing them to more modern consoles the same way, they brought Genesis games to the PlayStation 2 and Genesis Classics, and, the way they brought, a lot of the Super Nintendo classics to the GameCube and things like that, and even to the Wii. So, I still think that this is a great place to start if you were to start collecting this year, let's say, you know, this Christmas, somebody gave you some retro games for Christmas. If you wanted to start a retro collection, this generation is a great place to start. I know the 360 went on a crazy run this summer, and a lot of people were really like going after it and picking up games for it. But I still think you can get a lot of really good stuff. And if you are the type of person who you're like, well, you know, I don't just want to collect a bunch of filler. I want heavy hitters in my collection, or you're wanting to play, you know, some of the more beefy titles. Like if we go over here, if you're looking for some more of like the beefy 360 titles, you know, 99 Nights, Part 2, you know, if you're looking for like the Deadpools and the Spider-Man games and the Wolverine games, you still have all of that optionality to you. You can definitely dive into that if you want to work your way up to some more of the more expensive titles. And speaking of 99 Nights, I'm actually just looking at this now. I actually brought this up yesterday because, yeah, so it was to developers. So I just picked up this copy of 99 Nights yesterday from GameStop, because they had it there, and I actually had this version as well. It's like almost like darn near brand new, like new condition. I love when GameStop must have like a warehouse where they just like, you know, purge and then they just send them out. But anyway, so I think I see why Part 2 is way more expensive than Part 1. So for those of you who don't know, 99 Nights, the first one is like a $10 game, but at some point with the 360 blow up, Part 2 just shot up in price, and Part 2 is like a $50 game. Then the only difference that I can see between these two games is one developed by Konami, the other one was a Microsoft Studios game. So I think this one plays a lot more like a hack and slasher, kind of like a Dynasty Warrior style. And the cover art is sick, don't get me wrong, but I don't know what's changed a ton between the first and the second. So for anyone who's played or beat both of these games, let me know down in the comments what you think the biggest difference is between Part 1 and Part 2 of 99 Nights. But just going back to anyone who's thinking about starting off a collection, I mean, whether it be the 360, you've got a bunch of options here. But then even when it comes to the PS3, you've got really cheap but fun games like Sleeping Dogs. This is like a $6 game that I picked up not too long ago. Really cool 3D beat 'em up style game from Square Enix. You know they make really good games. And then you've got a whole list of games that you could dive into. Silent Hill Downpour, Armored Core, which I just picked up not that long ago. Another Wolverine game, some Spider-Man. Nier, which is a really, really cool game. Played some of it. All the different move sets that you have. So, look, the 7th gen is a really great place to start. If you weren't going to start with like handheld consoles, I would definitely say look into 7th gen gaming, because a lot of really good stuff on there. And to be honest, a lot of what we're getting on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 originated, well, not originated, but a lot of it's being remastered from this generation. So just some early morning thoughts that I figured I'd share with the Y2K crew. Let me know what you think about starting a new collection. If you were to start a brand new collection today, where would you start? Would you start with 7th gen? Would you do PS3? Would you do 360? Would you go Xbox One? Because Xbox One might even be the cheaper option. Xbox One might be the cheapest option, because I think, you know, 360 games in general might have surpassed Xbox One, but for some reason, Xbox One just doesn't get that kind of love. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. It's the Y2K Collector. Maybe I'll get out and about and get to do just some perusing. I'm not doing any game hunting, but I always like to see what's going on out there. And it's usually when I'm not looking that I run into a bunch of cool stuff. So let me know what you're into this weekend, if you plan on doing any game hunting, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.